Christopher Columbus returned to Spain a hero. The return journey had been anything but easy. His flagship, the Santa Maria, had run aground on Christmas Day 1492 off the coast of Hispaniola. Using its timbers, Columbus ordered the construction of a small fort called La Navidad and left 39 men behind before beginning the voyage home. Only 2 ships remained, the Niña and the Pinta. On the return crossing, violent storms separated them in the Atlantic. At one point, Columbus feared the expedition would be lost entirely. Near the Azores, he reportedly sealed an account of his discoveries inside a waterproof container and prepared to cast it into the sea if his ship sank. After surviving the storm, Columbus was forced into Portugal. There, King John II became one of the first rulers in Europe to hear the astonishing news. For decades, Portugal had dominated Atlantic exploration. Now, a navigator sailing for Spain claimed to have found lands across the Western Ocean. John was not pleased. After more than 7 months at sea, Columbus arrived back in Spain in March 1493. He had done what many believed was impossible. He had crossed the Atlantic and returned alive. News spread rapidly across the kingdom. Soon, Columbus was summoned to Barcelona, where Ferdinand and Isabella were holding court. Before the king and queen, he presented the treasures he had brought back from the West: gold ornaments, exotic parrots, unfamiliar plants, among them tobacco leaves, and several Taino people from the Caribbean whom Columbus believed could be converted to Christianity and serve as intermediaries between Spain and the newly discovered lands. He also suggested that the lands could provide labor, resources, and strategic advantages for the Spanish crown. The monarchs were impressed. The foreign sailor who had spent years begging for support was suddenly the most famous man in Spain. The rewards promised to Columbus years earlier were finally granted. He was formally recognized as Admiral of the Ocean Sea, Viceroy and Governor of the lands he claimed to have discovered, and gained a privileged position at court. But one crucial question remained unanswered. What exactly had Columbus discovered? Columbus insisted he had reached islands near Asia. He believed the riches of China and India were still nearby. The lands he described contained no great Asian cities, no vast spice markets, and none of the wealthy civilizations Europeans associated with China, India, or Japan. Instead, Columbus spoke of beautiful islands, scattered gold ornaments, fertile land, and welcoming peoples. The evidence did not perfectly match what many Europeans expected Asia to look like. Yet before the mystery could be solved, a far more immediate problem emerged: Portugal. For decades, Portugal had led Europe's age of exploration. Its sailors had pushed steadily down the coast of Africa, while Spain watched from the sidelines. Now a Genoese navigator sailing for Spain was claiming vast new territories across the Atlantic. King John II of Portugal was not impressed. He argued that the discoveries might belong to Portugal under existing treaties between the two kingdoms. If he was right, Spain could lose everything Columbus had found. What had begun as a voyage of discovery was becoming an international dispute. Diplomats raced to secure Spain's claim. The Spanish crown appealed to Pope Alexander VI, one of the most powerful figures in Europe. In May 1493, the Pope issued decrees supporting Spain's rights to lands discovered west of a newly drawn boundary line in the Atlantic. The dispute would eventually lead to the Treaty of Tordesillas in 1494, which divided much of the non-European world between Spain and Portugal. But before that treaty was signed, Spain moved quickly to strengthen its position. Ferdinand and Isabella knew that documents alone would not secure an empire. If Spain wanted to keep these lands, it needed to occupy them. Columbus seized the moment. The first voyage, he argued, had merely revealed the opportunity. Now Spain needed a much larger expedition. Not just explorers, settlers, soldiers, priests. The crown agreed. The scale was unprecedented. The first voyage had sailed with 3 ships and fewer than 90 men. The second would sail with 17 ships and more than 1,000 people. This was no longer a mission to discover new lands. It was the beginning of Spain's overseas empire. In September 1493, barely 6 months after returning from his first voyage, Columbus sailed west once again. The first voyage changed the map. The second would change the world.